Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this impromptu live stream. I am graced with a great friend and guest. You all know him. 2 Cents Toys. Sal, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
No. Thank you for being part of this discussion. I wanted to. I don't know. I was sitting around today and I was doing a shot list for another video, and I just kept mulling these articles that keep coming out about Hasbro and Mattel's future business plans, their short-term outlook for the future of their companies. And it seems like they're both really chatting this up in the last few weeks when we've been seeing the price hikes. We've been seeing them shut down YouTube channels. We've been seeing all this quirky behavior going on. And I just heard from several people today about the Pulse stream that just went on for GI Joe today. And there was some interesting scuttle about that with the person that they had on the video, who was, I guess, hosting the Pulse chat. I guess she said something to the effect of, somebody asked her how long she'd been a GI Joe fan, and she said since last June. And it was, and the other thing that they referred to was they're trying to now spin the difficulty in finding Hasbro toys and action figures. They're trying to call it an exciting scavenger hunt.
Right, because everyone loves a scavenger hunt.
Yeah. So I thought, you know what? Why don't we look at what they're saying about themselves in these articles and just see. Oh, our third is here. Lio, how are you, sir?
Tired but making it. Hopefully, you two
All
are doing all right.
Sorry, I just noticed you were in the back room there. Sorry about that.
Sorry,
Lio Convoy is also here. Yeah. So I was just thinking about this, and I thought we should really discuss what Hasbro and Mattel are saying about themselves in these articles. So I've got them pulled up. I thought we could kind of go through them and just sort of discuss, deconstruct some of this language in here. Jody, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, just cuz, hope you're doing well over there, sir. You guys are in our thoughts today. All right. Oh, and Connor Fuller says, yeah, it was damn depressing hearing that scavenger hunt remark. Yeah. Crazy stuff. All right, so let's start with the first article that came out, guys. These are both from CNBC, and this one was published on February 15th, and it's called Hasbro and Mattel Have Very Different Visions for the Future of the Toy Industry. It begins with Hasbro and Mattel have very different ideas about the future of the toy industry. While both of the country's dominant toy companies report strong revenue increases during the crucial holiday quarter and throughout 2021, only one of them expects continued robust growth. There's a sense of confidence and optimism behind Mattel, says Garrick Johnson, an analyst at BMO Capital Markets, and a defensiveness from Hasbro. I find that language interesting. Mattel's optimistic, Hasbro is defensive. I know that's financial speak, so I get that one is like hedging their bets, I guess, and the other one is kind of, out there more confidently. Mattel projects that consumers will accept new price increases and continue to buy at the same volume and velocity they've been doing during the pandemic. However, much of that sales growth came on the backs of parents who turned to toys as a way to fill their hours spent at home during the pandemic and was helped by wallets that were padded by stimulus payments and child tax credits. That has led to tempered optimism at Hasbro, which expects sales growth over the next 2 years to recede as spending on travel and leisure rebounds. Now, obviously, guys, these articles were written before the events of today, so obviously the story could change. But just for those of you in the chat, keep in mind this article was written on the 15th. And then says that piece is something investors are wrestling with today, said Stephanie Wissink, managing director at Jefferies. Why is Hasbro's view of the core toy business somewhat more conservative versus Mattel's view of the toy business? This is where I started to wonder, and I want you guys' opinion on this, Sal and Thomas. Is Hasbro really more conservative versus Mattel in the way it does business with its toys from what you guys are seeing right now?
If by conservative they mean stingy, then yes.
Okay.
Currently, I'm really hung up on that opening sentence. which,
Mhm.
not for nothing, but I was a journalism minor for half a semester once. And the one thing that stuck in my brain was that they said, never make your headline your opening sentence.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
this is CNBC using their headline as their opening sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if conservative. It's not the word I would use. I mean, Mattel is definitely out there. They're trying to float 3 Motu lines currently. I see they have Barbie. I don't pay attention to Barbie, so I couldn't speak to that front. Where Hasbro also has multiple Marvel lines going on, but they don't seem to be out there in full force with all of them.
Right.
So I guess that's an accurate description to call it conservative versus optimistic, I guess. It's just the
kind of
tricky.
The kind of empty store shelves in the Hasbro sections continues, while Mattel's product seems to be more findable, I guess is the case. That's what you're experiencing.
Right. It seems more like, I don't know, showing up to, I guess, with Mattel, it's kind of shown up to, what do they call those? Covered dish events, potlucks, I guess, where there's going to be something. It might not be great, but there's going to be something where Hasbro's kind of like a raffle, like, oh, there's something, but you're probably not going to get it. Like,
right. Yeah. Getting back to that whole scavenger hunt comment they made today on Hasbro Pulse.
Right.
If you can't find it. Sorry, Thomas, go ahead.
So I think in terms of what the article may be speaking about, I'm sure they're probably going to elucidate more as we continue. They might mean conservative in terms of where they're going. Mattel, I mean, in order to get Sunman, they of course had to buy the rights to it.
Yeah.
So it seems like maybe it means that Mattel is willing to go a little extra step and acquire other licenses or co-op other things, whereas Hasbro is more conservative only in the fact that they are sticking with properties they currently already own and are not going to expand further. I guess it depends on what the article details a little bit later, because in terms of like financial logistics, I mean, they're both equally stupid. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Jesse has an interesting comment here. He says, if Hasbro still had the Jurassic World license, they would have made all the large dinosaurs Kickstarter on HasLab with a $200 price tag, which is something that I do want to talk about later on in this discussion, is how it does seem like despite price hikes from both companies, Hasbro is really edging toward bilking its customers at this point, seeing what they can truly get away with product to product. It's almost like they're doing a scorched earth policy where it's like, we know that the jig is almost up, guys, you know, in gangster terms. We know it's almost up, but we're going to see how far we can take it before we finally get the handcuffs slapped around our wrists. So it's the next section here is Mattel's optimism. It says Mattel's optimism comes on the heels of a successful turnaround, one that led to the company's Barbie brand posting its best full-year sales results in its more than 60-year history. Even the company's previously beleaguered brands, including American Girl, Fisher-Price, and Thomas & Friends, were revitalized. Mattel's revenue jumped 10% to around $1.8 billion in the fourth quarter, beating analysts' estimates of $1.66 billion. Excluding items, it earned 53 cents per share, above estimates of 30 cents. Quote, now the question is sustainability, Wissing said. Mattel is taking the approach of Euromonitor told us 5%, and therefore we think the toy industry will grow faster for longer, and that it is inelastic, she said. That has led the company to update its expectations for the next 2 years. On Wednesday, during Mattel's earnings call, it said it expects net sales in 2022 to grow 8 to 10%. And then expand at a high single-digit pace the following year. Previously, the company had predicted growth in the mid-single digits for both years. 2021 has been another year of strong financial performance, said Anthony DeSilvestro, the company's chief financial officer. And on the call Wednesday, quote, we have made significant progress over the last 4 years. And as non-bracket Kreese Mattel CEO noted, our turnaround is now complete. Our guidance for 2022 and goals for 2023 reflect our momentum and confidence in our future performance. Mattel stock was up more than 13%, blah, blah, blah. Now, here I'm going to jump down here. Adding to Mattel's confidence is the recent news that it won back the licensing rights to Disney's Princess dolls. They lost this license in 2016 which left a huge hole in the company's business portfolio that it has only recently been able to recover from. The company will also see the release of its first film under the Mattel Films banner in 2023. Barbie will star Margot Robbie and be directed by Academy Award winner Greta Gerwig. Okay, so this, Thomas, please give us your thoughts on this as sort of the larger Mattel guy in the room here.
Well, I'm not really a larger Mattel guy because, frankly, the only thing I've collected Mattel related recently, of course, was Origins. But I will say that Mattel, they seem to be constantly expanding in the weirdest directions. They keep trying to chase trends instead of staying with what works. Mm-hmm. And in this case, they're hoping, I guess, a Margot Robbie led Barbie movie is going to get them a lot of attention and therefore a lot of traffic down toy aisles. But there's a lot of missteps here. Number one, while Barbie's had a lot of direct-to-video or even YouTube-related content to expand, I guess, the Barbie lore or storytelling, Barbie's been pretty independently strong, the unironic independent woman for a very long time now. But it's also a fairly child-friendly brand, and putting Margot Robbie on that may not be the best look for parents. And I don't know what direction they're going to go with the movie. They could try to make it super, super kid-friendly, or they can try and be stupid like Hollywood usually is and try to make Barbie edgy, and nobody's going to like an edgy Barbie. Yeah. So it seems like it almost seems like they're trying to ape the Hasbro thing of wanting to be movie producers and then toy makers in this case, but I don't know what their long-term plan is, and I don't know how they're going to sustain it. But it does seem like they're trying their best to branch out into things they do not know about and properties they have no real understanding of in other cases. But I don't know what they're going to do. But the constant rising prices, the bigger distribution issues, the actual things they need to address, they're, of course, never going to.
That's what struck me about this, was that it seems like they're trying to go down a Hasbro path that Hasbro's been pushing since really the first G.I. Joe movie way back in the day, which was Hasbro. I've said this in multiple videos and streams. They want to be a movie studio and a gaming company. They don't want to be a toy company anymore. It's evident in everything that they've said and done the last few years. And now suddenly Hasbro is coming out full force saying, Mattel is coming out full force saying, we want to be a movie studio too. Look at us, guys. We're movie studio. Look, we're hip. We're in. We've got all these properties too. And it's not really working for Hasbro so far. I mean, they wanted to do that whole, what was it, cinematic universe where they were going to combine all these dead properties across Hasbro and Kenner, where it's like, we're going to have a cinematic universe with Inhumanoids and Visionaries and Mask and this and that. And you're going, nobody really knows what those are anymore. And you guys mothballed them. The movies you are making aren't that great. And I would think that Hasbro would see that, Mattel would see that and go, maybe this isn't the way to go. But they've, like Johnny come lately. Now they're like you said, they're riding on Hasbro's coattails with this plan.
Well, part of the problem is that, from a creative standpoint, you and I or Sal can sit here and say that Hasbro's failed, but from a marketing standpoint, when it comes to their films, they haven't. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they haven't is, oddly enough, because Transformers makes an absurd amount of money. It doesn't matter how bad the film is. From a writing standpoint, a creative standpoint, people go for the spectacle. That's why Hasbro has made a lot of money and why they continue to sink more into films, because while some of them have completely failed, such as the G.I. Joe brand in terms of film, Transformers can single-handedly carry a lot of it. That's why Mattel's going to try to ape it, because here's the thing. Back in the day, and this isn't, Halcyon, this isn't red-tinted glasses, this is provable. Mm-hmm. Like objective, factual, provable. We could find this even goofy things like Toys That Made Us. Back in the 80s and into the 90s, these companies primarily leaned on the creative people. And the decisions in terms of monetary value, yes, were made by suits, but they trusted that creative people would put out something that people would like, and it succeeded. If you need to know how well it succeeded, we wouldn't be here if it didn't.
Right.
Single person would be in this chat, on this channel, looking at these brands. If it did not succeed, Hasbro did that, Mattel did that. Now that's not how this is ran. These are not ran by creative people that the suits lean on to lead things into a different direction by trusting that creativity and realizing that will lead them somewhere. Instead, it's brands, suits, trying to pigeonhole and trying to force creativity to go down the way they want. And as it has been said by Bobby Valla, as it has been said by a friend of mine who's worked with some of these companies, they do not want people who value these things to run these things.
Right.
And I believe the reason for that is because they know inherently a fan will make things that fans will want, but somebody who's a suit will try to look at the larger market and see what the larger market may want. A very telling point of this is one time at work a while ago, I was talking to a coworker, and he asked what I thought of the Marvel movies. And this is where I'm going to piss your chat off. And I told him, I can't stand the Marvel movies. I loathe them.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, well, why? I'm like, because it has gutted everything that made the characters in the comics the characters. It has removed every unique, true aspect about them. It has, in some cases, completely overhauled their personalities. And my coworker said, well, that movie's not made for you. It's made for people like me, the random Joe.
Right.
And as irritating as that may sound, he's not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be milquetoast. It's going to be watered down to where a larger swath of people can observe it. And what's going on here is Mattel is following that. So let's dumb our properties down. Not so much in terms of making it to where stupid people follow it. We already have stupid people following it. Look at any toy group.
Right.
But in the sense of it's going to appeal to a common denominator instead of specific fans. And one could argue that might be a smart way to do things from a business standpoint, but it will only get you so far because every single one of these properties was pioneered by creative types. And when you remove them from that, when you remove a fan's creativity and passion from something, you kill it. That's why they have to keep going from thing to thing to thing to thing instead of saying, all right, here's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's done by a very creative team that understands and cares about this property, and boom, carries you through a better part of a decade. Now it's, here's three He-Man toy lines, and we really don't know what we're doing with it. With one, we're completely replicating the original toy line, hoping to God you still buy it. The second one, Masterverse, well, we're gonna do a random swathing of random different versions of He-Man, and we're gonna hope to God you buy it, despite the fact that somehow, though having updated articulation, it's still inferior to the classics line. And the third one, it's supposedly the CGI kid-friendly He-Man that I've never seen He-Man toys clog a shelf like that since the 80s.
Right. Yeah.
And real quick to the guy in the chat, who I forgot your name, who asked what's edgy about Margot Robbie. Large swath of people know Margot Robbie for one thing and one thing only: Harley Quinn and booty shorts.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
Right. Jim Largo, thank you for the super chat. He says, hopefully newer toy makers like Valaverse will be a thumb in the corporate eye. we need more options, Jim. We definitely do. We need more people out in the space competing. Brian Dillingham, thank you for the Dillinghamism, sir. Good to see you. Michael Hinkson, thank you for the super chat. He says, hello, Mike and Lio from a chilly Reno. With a scavenger hunt, there's usually a reward at the end. I hate having to go to eBay to find what should be on the shelves, but here the Origin series have been hit and miss. They very much have. And then lastly, thank you, Jody. He says, although I love the three co-hosts, what is BV and the Bird's opinion? Broken Vader, he doesn't care. He's waiting for the cosmic end of all things. I can't speak for the Bird, of course.
Well, I mean, here, if the chat wants the Bird's opinion, type 2.
All right, so there are a laundry list of films here, and I wanted to ask Sal, you and Thomas, what you think of the potential for these films. So it says, Mattel has yet to set release dates for about a dozen feature films based on its brands, including Hot Wheels. I can kind of see that movie, I guess. What do you guys think? I mean, it feels like it could be like a more juvenile Fast and the Furious?
It probably will be, because again, there was that Hot Wheels television show back in early 2010s called Battle Racers, I believe it was called.
Mm-hmm.
So, it wouldn't surprise me, and that might actually be pretty lucrative, because with Hot Wheels, you can build it from the ground up, and if you get a really smart, creative guy on it, you can do anything with Hot Wheels.
Right.
You can do traditional drag races. You can do intergalactic races. You can do wacky races. You can do all the different brands that have crossed over with Hot Wheel, and then you can work it like that. Like, they have a lot of potential for storytelling, but it depends on who they have on it. Watch them put Seth Rogen on it.
Oh yeah, Sal, would you watch a Hot Wheels movie?
Probably not. I haven't seen a Fast and Furious movie since the second one.
Right. Right.
Like, a lot of those, I read forward a little bit. A lot of those, like Hot Wheels, I could see like a CGI direct to DVD movie or something. Like, if they did something in the vein of, I don't know, like Speed Racer or something like that. Now, my knowledge of Hot Wheels is only what I see on the shelves, but I see a lot of like just, oh, this is a microscopic version of this car. So I'm like, I don't know how many vehicles they create for that line versus like, oh, here's a Jetta, or here's the van that Chris Farley lived in or something.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know, like that. It seems like a money pit if they're gonna have to pay like GMC and Ford Motors and all those for licenses to use those cars. Magic 8-Ball could be some. I could see someone kind of very tongue in cheek make a horror movie out of it.
Right.
Polly Pocket would just be again a CGI cartoony thing for kids. Rocket Robots, I'm pretty sure it was called Chappie, and I think that movie's come out already.
Right.
Uno?
Uno, the movie. Like, really?
It's like a high stakes, like Texas Hold'em kind of game or something.
Yeah,
like that.
it's like Casino Royale, but they're playing Uno. Yeah.
Right. Then Barney, like they've done Barney movies before, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yeah, they have. Real quick, Polly Pocket might work. And the reason why Polly Pocket might work was because its male counterpart in the 90s had a really cool cartoon. Like
Max was great.
That was rad. Also, the brushstroke. What's the point? Kids watch TikTok, not long-form entertainment. No, they absolutely watch long-form entertainment. That's why they're still glued to things like Amphibian, Ghost and Molly McGee, Owl House, Steven Universe. They still watch long-form entertainment. It's just not what we watched.
But
of course, oddly enough, the things I just listed don't have toy lines to accompany them either. So
yeah, it's. World Made of Cardboard, thank you for the super chat. He says, today Hasbro stock is $93.18 and Mattel stock is $24.79. Mattel stock was lower not too long ago, so that percentage is not much. Hasbro wants to diversify. And that brings up a good point. Mattel could be putting this stuff out there just to try and get a brief bump in its stock sales. And Ra, thank you for this comment. He says, I think the last Joe and Bumblebee movies have proven fan blind loyalty is waning. Let's hope that fans are starting to think. Let's truly hope. Michael Hinkson says, thank you for the super chat. The best Transformers movie was the animated 86 film, followed closely by Bumblebee. I've seen the 86 one and own it on 4K. I still haven't seen Bumblebee, but I'll take your word for it. World Made of Cardboard says, what I mean by Hasbro wants to diversify. Hasbro is selling diversity to its stockholders, the people they prize. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Real quick, the Bumblebee movie is not bad. You primarily are going to watch like the first 5 minutes of it. They go back to more G1 type designs in it, and that's what really got people's attention. But at its heart, Bumblebee is a horse girl movie.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
If you like horse girl movies, you'll like Bumblebee. If you like Transformers, you like the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee. The fact that the main jet character they had for the first bit of it, instead of calling him Starscream, they named him Blitzwing, tells me that the people are still out of touch with the characters. Now, real quick, it looks like there were a lot of twos here. So, I mean, do we want to bring the bird on?
I mean, if the bird wants to give his opinion on the question, then by all means.
All right, let me go get him. Hey, Beak Mount, what do you want? Chat wants to talk to you. What chat? I'm on with RetroBlasting. Get over here. Fine. Hit the button, stupid. Fine. What do you want? Huh? Opinion of toys, right? You see Hasbro and Mattel. I hope they all die in fire like the rest of humanity. There, that's my opinion.
Eric, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, Michael, love your World War II stuff and content. There will be more on the way, sir. War Stories continues with Tony. It'll be happening not tomorrow, but next Friday. It won't be World War II, but World War II videos will continue, sir. All right, so on with the article here. So now we're looking at Hasbro's caution. We've run through Mattel's aspirations for its Hollywood productions. Here comes Hasbro's side of the story. Meanwhile, arch rival Hasbro's outlook for the toy industry is much more conservative. Quote, Hasbro is looking at real-time data, and they are also heavily informed by an economic view that we are entering a phase of some degree of uncertainty around consumers' willingness to digest inflation, Wissink explained. I would say that's code for we're finding that they're not willing to pay our inflated prices anymore. Last week, Hasbro said it was expecting revenue to grow in the low single digits in 2022. Deborah Thomas, the company's CFO, Chief Financial Officer, said that while the toy and game industry has grown at an above-trend rate over the last 2 years, the toy maker does not foresee this continuing, saying it expects the industry will slow or decline in the coming year. Also of note, Hasbro has a new CEO starting on February 25th. Chris Cox, the former Wizards of the Coast president, is taking the reins from interim CEO Rich Stoddart, who held the position after Brian Goldner passed away in October 2021. Analysts speculated that Hasbro may be intentionally setting its goals low for the next few years as Cox settles into his new position. Now, I know that these corporations play a lot of bait and switch games with their language in front of the guys on Wall Street because those are all spooked horses, and they want to make sure that their stock price stays somewhat stable. And so I know that in situations like this, when they have a leadership change, they usually, and this is what makes this language weird to me, because they usually, like when Chapek took over from Bob Iger for Disney, all they did was project confidence. They just projected, yeah, Bob Chapek's the man to do this. He's been in, he's got all this experience. We're all fully behind Bob Chapek taking over. It's the right time, all that kind of stuff. And here, Hasbro is playing a different tune, and they're like, yeah, we're really thinking everything's going to slow down. Yeah, we've got a new CEO. Yeah, that's true. But we think everything's going to slow down, so we're just, tap dancing a little bit. It seems like an odd position to take when you're bringing on a new guy, and I don't know. That's just the way it struck me. What do you guys think?
I'm kind of just reading ahead here. I'm not sure what a new CEO, unless they're planning on this guy to sink the ship. I don't know why them getting a new CEO would, I guess set their goals low, or I don't know. It seems like they know that they've taken several missteps this year, and they're just trying to put the blame out on something else early. Trying to be like, oh, well, you see, we projected our numbers would be lower this year because of these things. It's like, are you sure it wasn't like the whole HasLab thing and like I don't know, what is it, fourth price hike in a row?
Yeah.
Something like, because someone decided to have a lot of exhaust.
It's Hot Wheels, the movie.
That's right. Or it's just another local hoopty. Or someone stole my car. I might have to go look. But the not even in 2018, even like $18 was like the high end, or $20 was the high end of a Marvel Legend. And now 25 is like the standard. So it's I don't know, I think all that's they're, what's the phrase? Their chickens are coming to roost.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, well, as corporations do, play the blame game. It's everyone's fault but mine.
Right.
So I think they're trying to get those feelers out early. So when their chickens do come home to roost, they can say, well, we projected for this. We prepared for this by laying off, 25%. So.
Well, we're also overlooking the fact that there's no evidence that the people who have given information to this person are being honest. This all could just be a puff piece to, again, get certain people off their backs or to make excuses, because there's two things corporations do: lie and deceive. So would not surprise me that they're like, well, we just projected our sales would be lower because we got a new CEO. Yeah, new CEO. That's a guy. Totally not because people can't find our freaking stuff.
Right. Yeah. An ongoing problem they've never bothered to solve for. Jody sends a nice super chat. Special love for the bird. Thank you for the super chat. Scott Knudsen says, I have nothing intelligent to add. Just wanted to thank you all for the content. You're welcome, sir. And it's always great to see you here.
It's all right. I don't need her.
All right. So it says, additionally, Hasbro is taking into account the impact the pandemic has had on its film production. Its newest Transformers film was delayed until 2023, which translates into delays in ticket sales and product lines. What's more, Hasbro was the company that held the Disney Princess line and lost out to Mattel. The stock went down, explained Eric Handler, media and entertainment analyst at MKM Partners. The Street had to make adjustments in 2023, adding Transformers, but taking out the Disney Princess license. Hasbro still has an excellent story going on. Its media transformation is just beginning to unfold, but because of those puts and takes, I think people viewed it as a mixed situation. You got to love that whole financial rag jargon and vernacular. Hasbro's stock into the week flat, despite significant quarter earnings beat, blah, 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 shares, blah, blah, blah. Under the leadership of the late Goldner, Hasbro transformed from a toy company to a full-blown media competitor. The acquisition of Entertainment One in 2021 solidified Hasbro's strategy, making it possible to act as a studio for many projects. Quote, this is the genius of Brian Goldner, BMO's Johnson said. He understood brands are holistic. Entertainment plus toys equals a bigger piece of business. And when you put your storytelling behind a toy brand, it lasts longer. While Hasbro's toy division remains 62% of its revenue, or about $3.98 billion, there are now other aspects of its business that are growing in importance. Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming accounted for $1.28 billion, or 20% of the company's total, and entertainment was 17.9 or 1.15 billion. And this is the quote that I was like, it says Mattel is going more horizontal while Hasbro has gone more vertical. Time will tell which is the right way to go about it. Knowing what I know of horizontal and vertical integration, maybe I'm missing something here, but to me, it sounds like Hasbro and Mattel are pretty much doing the same thing. They're both wanting to be movie studios and moving more and more of their portfolio out of the toy business and into other media related to their toy trademarks, licenses, franchises. But have I misunderstood something? Guys, keep me honest.
It reminds me very much of the meme that are like, howdy do, fellow movie studios. It would seem, maybe I'm the idiot, which wouldn't surprise me. But it seems like a very weird bet to put all their eggs in the movie basket when time has kind of proven that, to quote a very wise man by the name of Yogurt, merchandising is where all the money is.
Well, yeah, so, but they merchandise the movies. That's what they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't come across that way, at least from what I'm hearing. It sounds like they want to go full on movies, and it's like, I don't know.
Well, that's been the strategy for a long time now. They're just a lot more transparent about it. Like, okay, let's go ahead and use an off-world example here in a way. Let's use, what was it? Batman and Robin. Let's use Batman and Robin, the Joel Schumacher film.
Uh-huh.
There's an entire, you have a bunch of maniacs talking about the Snyder cut, right? There's actually a Joe Schumacher cut. And it got cut because the people who were funding the film via merchandise sales wanted it cut for whatever reason, because they thought it might hurt the merchandise. We find that out now. We would never have known that back then. Now they're being more transparent about things like that. The reason why they cut it was because they wanted to merchandise more. Now they're saying, hey, we're just going to go ahead and throw everything behind these film studios to get more movies made because we think that'll get more attention on our products and therefore we'll be able to merchandise more. While that might be more transparent, the problem is the same it was back then. They are not letting creative people actually take the lead here. They're trying to piggyback off of a trend that is not always going to succeed and will not continue to succeed as time goes on because people are more aware of what's going on. To give an example, who here saw the original trailer for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, you remember the nightmare design they had for Sonic?
Yes.
You know how
Tiny
they
eyes. Yeah.
they redesigned it, right?
Yep.
What happened to the studio after that?
They shuttered their doors.
They shut down. They were shut down. We know that now. If this was 20 years ago, we wouldn't hear about that for years after all that happened. We knew the day it happened. So what's going to eventually happen is Hasbro, Mattel, they're going to keep making bad decisions and people are going to get tired of it. They're going to be tired of it and they're going to move on. They like talking about expanding and going into different media forms, but they never, ever, ever take into account fatigue because they're suits. They're not creative people. A creative person will get fatigue over working on the same thing forever and ever. To the chat, let me give you some examples. Akira Toriyama worked on Dragon Ball. He worked on Dragon Ball for a very, very long time, and when he got fatigued, he ended the story. And this is after being pressed by his editor for years to continue after he wanted to stop or to make decisions he didn't want to make. What you're going to see going forward these movie studios is that at an accelerated and larger expansive rate. You're going to see them dropping people, picking people back up, all this other stuff. And for a better example, let me know when they actually make another He-Man movie because it has been in production hell for 30, almost 40 years now. And they always promise, we got a new director, we got a new actor, you got Dick. You got Dick Hall is what you got.
Right.
Because even if they were to put out a He-Man movie, it's going to bomb. It's going to bomb.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they're doing with He-Man. And with films like Transformers, you might have Michael Bay behind it or whoever. The name behind it is what's going to lead it, and the spectacle, the fans watching the explosions. It's going to hit fatigue at some point. It always will. Look at Star Wars. It also hit fatigue.
Now they did green light a Sonic sequel, but I guess another studio picked that up or something, right?
Yeah, not only that, they're trying to expand also into I think either a series or another movie that has this specific on Knuckles, and they're going to try to expand. And as they get further out, it's going to suck.
Right.
And for those of you who are from the 80s, like most of us in this panel here, if you want a good example of that, go from Thundercats to Silverhawks.
Yeah.
Spread yourself thin. Leonard Starr worked on mostly Thundercats, and when it came to Silverhawks, there were a lot of arguments and a lot of other legal issues, and he was burnt out. So who handled it? Jules Bass. Did Silverhawks do well? No. It was a trash fire, and Tiger Sharks was worse.
You are right. Yep. This. Thank you for the super chat. He says, unlike Playmates that gets licensed toys from other companies, unlike Playmates that gets the license for their toys from other companies like Exo Squad and Ninja Turtles. Interesting. All right. And then last super chat here, before we move on to the next article, World Made of Cardboard. Thank you for the super chat. He says, other than Valaverse, what new toy company do you think will take Hasbro or Mattel's place in the future? I mean, right now, the only other big retail toy company I know that could do that would either be Playmates or what is it, Jazzwares? Is that right?
Jazzwares is certainly expanding. Playmates, no. I liked Playmates when I was a kid. Of course, I was an old school Ninja Turtle fan. Playmates is kind of dying. It keeps re-releasing Ninja Turtle stuff from ye old days, which I guess is fine. But the newer stuff they try to put out, their Ninja Turtles Classics line, that's a 2-pack with Bebop and Rocksteady and Shredder and a Triceraton, 10-year-old molds. And they have like a new one called the Ronin, which is based on a short comic line for Ninja Turtles. And they put one out, and then NECA released what their example is, and NECA's destroyed them on it. But I think Playmates is hanging on by a thin line, personally, from what I've seen.
Right. And Moonlight says Bandai would only get bigger internationally, I assume. I would tend to agree with that. Bandai is
Oh, Bandai is a doggone animal, and most of the chat isn't even really aware of how massive Bandai really is. To give an example, Bandai has a control over a ton of licenses. You just don't know them because you're here in the West. In my closet right now that I'm sitting next to is filled with Gundam model kits. They make an absurd amount of money every year on model kits alone. Not even action figures, but model kits. If you look at their figure art stuff, their only competition is Figma and occasionally Mafex. Nobody else. And their stuff is ingenuitive. It is animation accurate. It has consistently updating articulation. That's why if they do a 1.0 of something, the 2.0 by nature will be a superior design. And if you don't believe me, look at the original perfect grade RX-78 Gundam and the newest Unleashed one. The newest Unleashed one is an absolute beast compared to the original made in 1995. Bandai it innovates constantly, consistently. That's why it's so powerful. But Hasbro, Mattel, they don't.
Yeah. On Sun, he's referring to the animation studio that was hired to make the movie's digital effects, which constituted most of the film. And this is a common problem that happens where these studios will hire effects houses and then just not pay them. They'll make them do 90% of these films like Life of Pi or whatever, and then just not pay them on time. And then these effects studios bankrupt after making a big hit movie.
Like, I can give you an example. All right. So, and we're going to do this in just a few seconds here. Okay. Which one though? I mean, Google it, but who here can tell me, since we're from the 80s, who animated Thundercats? And once somebody start, hold on, let them answer.
Okay.
Let them answer. Who animated it? And yeah, we know Playmates doesn't own Ninja Turtles, but it was like their biggest brand for a very long time. I'm going to try and look this up for the guy.
It says I'm looking it up right now. It says, according to CBC Canada, the Vancouver-based studio Moving Picture Company, which was also behind the Academy Award-winning effects and animation in Life of Pi, has shut down. Yes, the animation studio responsible for Sonic and Life of Pi shut down, even though they made two of the most successful and or critically acclaimed movies of the year.
All right, so I'm looking at the answers. Some people say Toei. One person said Disney. One person said Frankenbass, which I think means Frankenbass. JSP says Lorimar, and then Tokyo Movie Shinji, some Korean company. No, all of you are wrong, except for Mindwipe 87 and Michael Bassett. What animated Thundercats was Pacific Animation Corporation, but it was Rankin-Boss who paid them to do it. That's how studios work. There is, to my knowledge, no Paramount animation studio. They outsource. This is what always happens with animation, no matter what it is. And definitely not Ruby Spears.
Yeah. All right, well, let's jump over to the next article, which is from February 18th, also from CNBC. Mattel looks to movies, digital gaming, and this is why I bring this article up, and NFTs for its next leg of growth. Now, this is something I've totally not heard Hasbro mention yet. Says here, with its toy business on better footing, Mattel said Friday it is looking to further expand its presence into other segments like consumer products, digital gaming, and filmmaking. The toy maker hopes this strategy will allow it to tap into consumers' enthusiasm for toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, and Uno, and to deliver new ways for kids and adults to experience its brands. Quote, the first part of the turnaround was to restore and then improve profitability, CEO Ynon Kreiz told CNBC in an interview. Making sure the toy company is on solid foundation and strengthen our balance sheet. This has been the focus, and we've always said the opportunity to capture full value was mid to long term. On Friday, Mattel laid out this new strategy in a pre-tape presentation for analysts. It is a playbook that many others in and outside of the toy industry have used. What have I said before, guys? All corporations run the same playbook. Take beloved franchises and make them available to consumers across multiple segments. Take Barbie. The dolls have been on toy shelves for more than 60 years, and yet the brand posted its best full-year sales results of all time in 2021. In the case of Barbie, which is our best and shining case study, it's really about the limitless potential of every girl, Richard Dixon, president and chief operating officer, told. Whoa. Something flickered. Evolution makes a brand relevant, but purpose makes a brand immortal, Dixon said. Mattel seeks to continue innovating the Barbie brand by producing a live-action film starring Margot Robbie. I want to get to the part with the NFTs.
Ugh.
I know, but we've got to address it.
We know it's got to be some sort of money laundering scheme.
It has to be. Okay, so this is interesting. It's where they bring Hasbro into this. Activist investor Altifox Capital Management, which owns a 2.5% stake in Hasbro, nominated 5 directors to Hasbro's board and penned a letter to shareholders, which was distributed Thursday, urging Hasbro to spin off Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming, its fastest growing segment, and asked the company to reevaluate its strategy of using entertainment to drive toy sales. So they have an investment firm that has seats on the board of directors now telling them to get rid of its gaming aspirations and entertainment stuff, which I find very interesting. Urging Hasbro to spin off Wizards of the Coast, which we just heard in the last article was something like, 20% of its revenue, and digital gaming, and ask the company to reevaluate its strategy of using entertainment to drive toy sales. Notably, Hasbro owns and operates a studio and invests significantly in its entertainment productions. And yet now they have people saying, we don't think this is working. We don't think this is working. People who have leverage. I find that very interesting. Hasbro has balked at the notion that its current strategy is not working, and so too have analysts. Also, having the Wizards unit, which includes brands like Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering, might actually help Hasbro weather the storm of losing the Disney Princess license, a lucrative license in the toy industry. Investors appear to be on board with what they have learned about Mattel's strategy. This is where we get into, I believe, the NFTs. This robust forecast comes on the heels of a 4-year turnaround that started when Kreese took the helm in 2018. At the time, he was the 4th CEO in 4 years to assume control of the company. So Mattel's been through a revolving door of leaders. Fisher Price Bar. God, I keep hearing stuff fall upstairs. Heading into 2022, Mattel is on stronger financial footing. It has reduced its debt from $2.85 billion in 2018 to $2.57 billion in 2021. Where is this about the NFTs? In addition to driving revenue, the strategy complements its toy offerings as it provides a new way for consumers to engage with Mattel's brands. Digital entertainment, including video games, mobile games, and NFTs, are another opportunity. Mattel's team notes that digital gaming alone represents a $170 billion industry, and it is a space that the company has only just begun to explore. Mattel already has mobile games centered around Uno and Phase 10, as well as a racing video game, Hot Wheels Unleashed, but it is looking to expand this area of its business. Then it says down here it is. Rival Hasbro is seeing significant upside in launching digital games, blah, blah, blah. Mattel is also dabbling in the NFT space. It does represent a significant opportunity to drive what I would call high-level engagement to our iconic brands, Dixon said. I think what makes us unique in the NFT space is that we are globally recognized, iconic brands that, with the right interpretation and execution, can become incredibly exciting and incredibly valuable. I don't understand. Okay, it says Hot Wheels was the first major toy brand to expand into the world of NFTs with 3 one-of-a-kind tokens that were inspired by the original Hot Wheels Garage series. Another collection, which included more than 90,000 NFTs, sold out in minutes, with tens of thousands of customers still waiting in virtual queues to buy them. What do they do? Create 90,000 digital coins, each one with a unique Hot Wheel on it from back in the day, and then they just had people bid until they passed out?
I'm going to tell you exactly what this is, and you're going to hate me after I tell you, or rather you're going to hate the information. They are pieing a link to an image.
You're buying an exclusive link
to an exclusive image that you still share that allegedly you own, but people will screen cap and make fun of you for owning.
Oh my god. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, this is, you know how like back in the day, smart rich people invested in like things and then never showed anybody they were rich. This is what dumb rich people do.
Why? Okay. If I have the choice between owning the original artwork for the very first Scarlet G.I. Joe card from 1982, the actual painting, not a digital thing with an NFT token on it, I would choose the actual painting. Because that's what he put his brushes on.
Yeah,
like, why?
but the people who own the NFT though will say that you're dumb for doing that because their NFT will be ultimately more valuable. And sadly, because again, and I have to state this, and this might upset some people, what we call the market is all made up, and it's all made up by dumb people. So factually, they are correct because there's a bunch of morons willing to buy the NFTs. And the reason they buy the NFTs is so they can sell it later at a higher price. It is literal pump and dump. Like somebody's money laundering. Somebody's got to be. When Eminem gets in on this, somebody's up to something.
Sure. I mean, Sal, have you had any interest in these NFTs since you've heard about them? Not just these. I mean, NFTs in general.
I don't know what these NFTs are. None of it makes sense to me. It sounds like horse crap. So I just ignore it and hope it goes away, like I do with most things in my life. But I don't know. I think like Bitcoin and all, like I find it all very confusing. If it works for people, I'm happy for them. But I think like Bitcoin took off, and now anything that involves online currency, they think it's going to be the next big thing, so they jump on it. Like this very well could end up being the Beanie Babies of cryptocurrency.
We need to get back to tradition. Garbage Pail Kid cards.
That's right.
I just want to bring this up, Tetsuo's Wrath. You don't have to be really smart to necessarily be ruthless enough to amass a lot of money. There's a lot of people who they're cunning, but that doesn't mean that they're book smart or they're just people who are ruthless, and there is a difference. And then Sir Nightheart says, if you buy to have the number one line of ownership, yet it can be shared millions of times. I appreciate you explaining that, but it still seems so pointless. All right. So it says, in exploring these other segments, Mattel is able to not only generate excitement for its core customers, kids, but also reach older generations by targeting consumers who grew up with Barbie but aren't interested in buying traditional non-collectible dolls. Mattel is able to continue to keep the brand in the mainstream and add urgency to purchases with exclusive and limited edition items. You mean like links to shareable images?
Yes.
Oh, God. Thomas, that just sounds so inane.
Well, it
is. So, yeah. The strategy for its fledgling film division, which won't release a feature-length film in theaters until 2023, is to lean on third-party companies to finance each project and partner with a studio or distributor. So even though they are Mattel Studios, it's in name only, much like Hasbro Studios is in name only, and they partner with people like Paramount in their case. That strategy helps to mitigate the company's financial risk, but that doesn't mean that Mattel is hands-off when it comes to these projects. Quote, we are involved creatively so we can make sure the DNA and brand attributes and values are there, Kreese said. We are not film distributors or film financiers, but we are working with the best.
Best idiots.
Yeah. Additionally, Mattel will have more than a dozen series and specials on networks or on streaming services this year. It has more than 20 television projects in production and around 25 in development, Kreese said. Quote, this opportunity is not done to sell more toys, he said. When we launch a movie or make a TV show, The mandate is to make great content that people want to watch and build accredited verticals. What? This ridiculous. I love this non-language language, and build accredited verticals that are successful so we can attract the best talent. Can we stop talking like corporate robots for a moment?
Well,
the best creatives and partners that want to make special experiences. I guarantee you right now, this accredited verticals is like the leverage or flag that of 2022, because these stupid terms run like wildfire through corporate boardrooms. They are like the pandemic. They're
I think they're banking on idiots like me not knowing what that means and being like, that sounds positive, that sounds good. Like, if someone came at me with that speech, I know you're speaking English, but I don't get it.
Yeah. World Made of Cardboard. So, yeah, exactly, Sal. World Made of Cardboard, thank you for the super chat. He says, NFTs and Bitcoin sound like a plan by Cobra Commander to take over the world. That's not far off. It's not far off. So, yeah.
I guess we're just not smart enough to understand it, Michael. It's just brilliant. We're just too stupid.
I'm sure somebody will come along with a video soon and explain it all to us, I'm sure.
I just miss the days when I could trade a goat for 3 chickens.
So far, Mattel's projects are touting some pretty serious or pretty big talent, like Tom Hanks for the Major Matt Mason movie and Vin Diesel for the Rock'em Sock'em Robots project. These are partners who used to be fans of Mattel's brands, he said. So wait, nobody
I'm sorry,
knows.
Michael. I'm sorry. I like, these are partners who used to be.
Yeah.
It's like, how about you look at people who've like fans that are,
because they're not Hollywood names.
This is crazy to me. Major Matt Mason. This gets back to that thing I was just saying about Hasbro trying to create a cinematic universe out of visionaries and inhumanoids. The entertainment industry already leans on like 5 franchises that they just repeat over and over again because they are so afraid of putting anything out there that no one's ever heard of before. Well, guess what? There are things called dead brands that are technically now classified as things no one in the present has ever heard of before. And I'm gonna do a not really hot take here, because I don't think I'm really putting my neck out. Major Matt Mason is not something a lot of people know about anymore. So
no.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never heard of it, and the way you said it made it sound like, am I supposed to know who that guy is? Like, I thought it was a real person.
News on the march. It's Major Matt Mason. He's fighting the commies. Like, it's like, what are we doing? Like,
same thing we've been doing for a while now, Michael. These companies have always, when it comes to rebranding, rebooting, changing things for bigger markets, they've always leaned on and only on bigger names. And we've seen that no matter what property we've looked at. It doesn't really matter. Like, okay, let's use something everybody here unquestionably knows. Scooby-Doo. There's not a single person in this stream who does not know what Scooby-Doo is. Scooby-Doo last year had a motion picture. How many of the original Scooby-Doo cast members that were still in voice work, still live, were part of it?
Probably none, except Frank Welker, maybe.
I can't remember if Frank was in it. Let me double check. But everybody else, no. Oh, and not only did they try to turn that into a cinematic universe too by introducing Captain Caveman into it and the Blue Falcon. It's ridiculous.
Look, I know that this might, for anybody paying attention, you might think that this conversation from my end sounds hypocritical because I've said that they need to come up with new ideas. And I've always said that, but I've also always said one more thing in regards to this. Whether you're talking about new ideas or you're talking about legacy ideas, the one thing they continue to do wrong with these, and that includes Major Matt Mason and all those other things, they are continuing to try and make things mainstream that are not and never were mainstream in the hardcore sense. In other words, The reason that Star Trek and Star Wars kept going through their dark years, in Star Trek it was the 70s, in Star Wars it was the 90s, is because the hardcore fan base that was not the mainstream kept being willing to spend millions and millions of dollars on books, comics, video games, and other things that kept the brand afloat when there were no movies or television series being made. All right. So then when you immediately decide you're going to buy that brand, whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars, and say, we're going to relaunch it to a mainstream Main Street audience, we want to capture the people that otherwise aren't interested in Star Wars, you're starting on the back foot, because you're saying we're going to kick the fandom to the side that was already supporting it to the extent that we wanted to buy it. And now we're going to try and capture people who already don't care.
Yeah, they've always done that.
I know they've always done that. And they're going to do it with these properties as well. But both these properties and properties that have gone fringe but are still successful because of hardcore fans. Like, in other words, Major Matt Mason totally went like derelict. It went fallow because there wasn't a strong enough fan base to keep demanding the other stuff while there wasn't TV shows or movies or whatever being made. Whereas with Star Wars, it wasn't like that. It was, the brand stays viable even if no movies are being made because the fans are that hardcore. Either way, the way that you've got to bring people around is to make something that is very carefully designed to be high quality, something that word of mouth gets around it, how good it is, but that word of mouth is going to be generated by the hardcore fans who have already loved it, and they watch it, they buy into it, and then they show it to other people. Trying to find that magic bullet where we're going to turn this magically into a mainstream thing, I don't recall the last time that worked. In fact, the only time I can recall that working, and it's only fortunate because the Chinese market just loved big robots, was the Transformers Michael Bay movies. But it only kind of went mainstream because of the success in China. I don't know if I'm just spinning in my chair here or not. Maybe I'm crazy.
The thing is that what they're hoping for is again, because corporations can only ape, they cannot create. They're hoping to reproduce the success in things like Transformers, because the Transformers Michael Bay films did make Transformers mainline. Well, if the Transformer films never existed, people would remember them to a point. They might point out the new show on Cartoon Network or whatever, but it did expand that brand to an unprecedented degree. It gave Hasbro the money to play and expand more. It got us different Transformer lines in succession and back to back. The thing is, they will make it mainstream if the movies are successful. It's a gamble, but unfortunately, it's a gamble they're willing to take because they see somebody else succeeded once, so therefore they should be the main line. And that's what they're going to attempt, because again, they're corporations, they're not creatives. They don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to piggyback off of something else.
Right. Michael, thank you for the super chat. He says, didn't the same thing happen in the 90s with the Phantom and Shadow movies? In a sense, yes. I know some people will swear that the Phantom movie is really awesome, and it has some things going for it, but I'm not going to call it a awesome, stellar movie by any stretch. The problem with that is that you had unfamiliar characters that they were trying to push out there to a modern audience that had forgotten all about them. But the property itself, not the property, but the project itself, the movie itself, wasn't strong enough in its end game to get people excited, because there was other stuff in the marketplace that was competing with it. Namely, at that time, the Batman movies, which were huge at that time. So, the Batman movie success inspired them to try these films, but they didn't execute them properly, and they're not total disasters, but they also didn't, capture the zeitgeist of the moment. No. And then Analog Toys, thank you for the super chat. He says, the only person who cares about Major Matt Mason is Tom Hanks. It was his favorite toy back in the 60s. Yeah, and I'm not saying it was a bad toy or anything like that to anybody out there listening. I'm just simply saying nobody knows what that is anymore. So it's an uphill battle either way. I get that they think if we put Tom Hanks' name with anything, it'll just sell. That's not necessarily true. Tom Hanks now is in many ways much like Harrison Ford now, where, yeah, his name sold box office in the 80s and 90s, but, you know, for the last 10 or 15 years, unless he's showing up as Han Solo or Woody from Toy Story, it's not a guarantee. I don't know.
I had the first film he ever showed up in. That movie was a mess.
Oh, really?
Mazes and Monsters. It's depressing.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, those are the two articles. I was just curious, you know, because when I read them, aside from the NFT thing, which I'm sure is right around the corner for Hasbro.
Oh, they already done it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. They've done it with a black and gold version of the Megazord. They made an NFT of it, put it on Hasbro Pulse.
What did it sell for?
They wanted 300 for it, if I recall correctly.
Wow, so it's actually cheaper than most HasLab projects. Okay.
It wasn't an exclusive NFT to where only one person owned it. You all could own it. You get this picture that I could. But yeah, I know.
I thought the whole point of NFTs was its exclusivity, that you were the number. What are they doing?
I don't know, and I don't buy NFTs, so I try not to care. I've got more than enough on my plate as it is. If foolish people want to keep spending their money, they're going to continue to. But here's the thing. If we don't like the way these places are going, what we have to do is something that a lot of toy collectors don't want to do. We have to stop giving them money.
Yeah, you're right. We do.
And part of that comes down to, well, two things. Some people, well, actually more than just two things, but the bigger problem are the two things. One, people who want to recreate the childhood joy of getting a new toy.
Uh-huh.
And like any other phenomena, it will always suffer from there's a term for it. Diminishing returns. And second are the people who are just flat out addicted to it.
Yeah.
And you have to understand your childhood's done. Like anybody in this stream right now is not a child, except for maybe one or two people on the very fringes. You can still enjoy the property, you can still enjoy the thing, but if you make it your entire personality, you make it everything you're all about, and you make it to where it's your prerogative to get every single thing for this specific line, you're just playing into what they want. These people aren't your friends. These people are selling you a product. If Hasbro or Mattel thought they could get away with selling you poison, they would literally sell you poison. We have got to stop being controlled by FOMO, fear of missing out. We've got to stop, because number one, it feeds them. Number two, it feeds scalpers. Number three, it does no good for us.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I totally agree. Sal, what do you think?
I want my toys. No, I agree. It's, you know, people say vote with your wallet all the time, and that's why, like, I took a hard look at my collection, and I was like, you know, there's a good like third to 2/5 in here that I got on impulse, and I really don't want.
Yeah,
I got swept up in it because I lack any kind of impulse control.
I did the same thing, not due to lack of impulse control, but because I wanted to collect them in general. So I collected a whole bunch of like Transformers between the 2010 and like 2020. And then I look back at my collection. I picked up a character. I'm like, I don't care about Scoop. Why do I have Scoop? Because he was in the collection. I wanted to complete the collection. So I sold not a big chunk, but a sizable enough chunk of my more modern Transformers. And I dealt in the third party instead. And for those of you wondering, sooner or later, that's going to happen with these other properties if the communities get big enough and creative enough. While Bobby Valla is out there making Action Force, that's all well and good. But sooner or later, somebody's going to come with a third-party He-Man or a third-party Thundercats. Or maybe somebody's going to get smart. And somebody's going to start licensing their brand to foreign markets in terms of production. If they were to make either a Figuarts or a Figma line for Thundercats, He-Man, or G.I. Joe, it's going to beat the living daylights out of whatever we have here. For example, I have like a Figma here from 2015. And I have the Jaga that was released for Super 7. The 2015 Figma beats the living daylights out of the Jaga despite being half the size in terms of plastic quantity, but being the same price when both were released. Both were $55 when they were released. Why? because the Figma figure has better articulation, more accessories, more accurate sculpts. They're going to rule whoever gives them a license, and they're open to it. You can go on their website and ask them for it. And if they think it's going to be profitable, they'll delve into it. We've got to stop relying only on the original brands. We've got to. We absolutely have to. Otherwise, we're going to keep feeding them. We're going to keep this process. Corporations do not learn.
No,
They
they
just
don't.
follow.
Yeah.
If they found out tomorrow, let's go ahead and remove law, right? Let's remove law from this and get a little ugly here. You want to know one of the biggest groups of people, the biggest money wasters for the most disgusting things on this planet is furries. Furries will spend thousands of dollars on one piece of art with something horrific on it. If they thought they could get away with it, Hasbro would be tapping into that and trying to charge people thousands for terrible, ugly, disgusting things. They're not your friend. They're not your buddy. And a brand is not your friend. He-Man isn't real. G.I. Joe isn't real. It is only confined to your conception of fiction. You do not need a brand new Cobra Commander to feel that connection with the character and thing you enjoyed when you were younger. All you need is your imagination and an understanding that you can still get those old things if you want them.
Yeah. It's especially with the internet being what it is, type it in and you will find it. I mean, there is no barrier to entry anymore for trying to track down those things that you want if you're patient enough. I know that there are some people who are like, well, I want the new thing, or I want, I don't want to buy an old secondhand thing. And I guess there's always going to be those people out there. But at the prices they're demanding, with the scarcity that they are engineering, and I do believe it is artificial scarcity, they could make more to meet demand if they wanted. I've said this 100 times. It is becoming a game for suckers. And I'm increasingly unwilling to continue to play the suckers game. But that's just me.
Yeah. I'm reminded of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Like, collectors just are that cacophony of children. Mm-hmm. They have the gluttony of Augustus, and they have the demand of Veruca Salt.
Yeah,
they'll eat it all up, and they want to eat it all right now.
Well, here's the thing: if they were smart, because again, every property we're talking about here, with the exception of Barbie, got its head start on the market via cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a single person in this chat who is a fan of He-Man, Transformers, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, Mask, I don't know, Silverhawks, Tiger Sharks, whatever. Did not get introduced primarily through the cartoon. You might have bought a toy first, but what did the toy do? Toy got you interested in the cartoon.
Yeah.
If these companies were smart, they were really smart, and they understood the creative drive, they would license it out at a cheaper rate and let the market decide. If you were to let's go ahead and use an example of a guy I'm really fond of. Let's take Harry Partridge, for example.
Uh-huh.
If Mattel, or rather in NBC Universal, they own the animation stuff for He-Man. If Mattel were to say, you know what, for like an eighth that they would charge other people, they were to hand it off to Harry Partridge, and do the same with other animation studios that want it, independent ones. Whoever does the best job, whoever has the most compelling story, the best animation, all that, that's going to be the one that's going to continue to carry that torch long term. But they won't do that because they want their money now, and they want what they think they should have on it. It's one of the reasons why Thundercats keeps failing. Because what the company that owns Thundercats, Warner Brothers, does is they see what other companies have done with stuff like Transformers, and when they do not get the return they think they are owed, they kill it. Without realizing why properties like Transformers keeps going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you're gonna have to, and I don't have a lot of faith in the fandoms at this point to resist that predatory marketing that need to collect them all, even if they're terrible. I was proud to see that there were a few people who have, finally backed off HasLab after the Sentinel debacle, and they're mad at Hasbro for the way they handled the Galactus rollout a few days ago. So there are some people who are catching on to Hasbro's. It goes beyond apathy. It's almost cruel to the consumer the way they do certain things. But it's going to take a lot. It's going to take that momentum to build. We need that snowball to get bigger as it rolls down the hill.
Yeah,
and
people are going to have to get hurt more, and
Yeah.
hurting the wallet, hurting their pride, hurting the thing they like. If you think for a minute this is going to be the last time HasLab puts out something so
Oh, I know.
terrible, they're fooling themselves. Because in the stages of toy creation, all that could have been caught at an earlier point. Every single time that could have been caught, and they didn't. Why?
Mhm.
They probably just didn't care.
God.
They 100% didn't care. I have a Sentinel from the same company released 3 years prior. That's, I think, I'd look up the dimensions again, but I think it's like 10 inches shorter, and he has ratchets in his knees.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, it was straight apathy.
These companies are not your friends.
They're
not your buddies. They're never going to be. And if you keep giving money to people that hate you, sooner or later, it's not going to be them that's the fool.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've said about television animation for a long time now. They're not going to change. Let them die. And stop mourning them. Stop mourning them in the way you would a relative that died. If Mattel sinks tonight, I'm not going to lose an ounce of sleep. Same for Warner Brothers. Same for Hasbro. Even Bandai. Because they're not my friends. The properties they own, by the way, did not create, own, are the things I'm fond of. But them being owner of it doesn't mean that my appreciation for something made by creative people goes to Warner Brothers.
Right.
Heck no, Warner Brothers could die in a fire. If every single one of them is removed from the census tonight, I will not shed a tear.
Mm-hmm.
And we have people here who would, though. And I don't specifically mean a chat. I mean, like in these larger toy communities. You say one negative thing about how a toy is made or a sculpting decision or a paint application, people lose their mind. I have one dude who has been obsessively angry at me for over a year now because I criticized Super 7's Thundercat line. Obsessively watching me and angry. Why? Because I did not validate his thoughts. And he's responsible. I don't see other people talking about it like you. I'm like, good. That means that I know I'm right. Because if everybody else parrots the same thing I'm telling you, something's gone wrong. And what you're using is argumentum ad populum. There's millions of people who think Justin Bieber's a good musician. That doesn't mean he is one. That's part of the problem here. You have people that think you criticizing a brand is criticizing them because they never got a personality. You've got to stop being mindless consumers, and you have to have standards. Not even ethical, moral standards in this case, but even saying, you know what? That's really not worth the money that they're asking for it. When a competing brand that's not even like that license is doing better. These companies are not interested in doing better. They are very much so rooted in the capitalistic idea of I will do the least possible work for the highest possible markup. And that cannot keep going. Guys, you've got to let it die. You can't keep these industries on life support. You can't keep these brands on life support just because you want to recapture something from your childhood. Guys, you're all in your 30s. Some of you are in your 50s. You got to let it go. You can love the thing. By all means, do. Put that passion into creating something for it. I don't care if you do a fan series, fan art, fan fiction, whatever. But if continuing to buy these things for the corporations make does nothing but make them money and make you miserable because you have to hunt these things down because their distribution will never be addressed. You have to sit there in live streams with people that are half your age and not a quarter of your IQ are trying to tell you about a brand you've known about since you were a kid and not caring about it. They keep selling you faulty equipment. They do not apologize for it. They do not address it. They do not correct it. It's time. It's time to grow up and move on.
Yeah.
I'm going to say some things. I'm notoriously long-winded, so you're just going to have to stick with me for a second. I'm reminded of things like Microsoft and Sony right now, which is, it's out of left field, but just bear with me. Microsoft has been buying up developer after developer after developer. Like they've just recently bought like Acclaim or something. They bought something. So like all these big titles like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Blizzard, I think they just bought. So all these kind of like flagship titles that everyone knows are now going to be Xbox exclusive, right? And so they're doing that, I think, to make people buy the Xbox, because you could argue they lost the most recent generation where PS4 outsold whatever Xbox it was. And I think they're doing that to bring people to their side of the house. Where I'm more Sony, because I'm like, well, Sony's not going to have those titles, so they're going to have to make new things. And they're going to have to make them good in order for people to buy a PlayStation 5. So, they say necessity is the mother of invention. With that, I would hope that if Hasbro and Mattel just went belly up overnight, it would create this void where these new companies have to step up and make new IPs to get people interested, kind of like how Valveverse is doing, like making this new thing to make people interested to develop a new fan base, a new community. But I'm just worried that Hasbro and their death throes would be like, oh, we're going to sell G.I. Joe to freaking...
It's fine.
I don't know, Jazzwares or something like that. I just feel like that would happen. Like these companies wouldn't know what to do, and we'll just buy up all the IPs from this dead company now, and then we'll still get the same 5 things over and over and over and over. And in 2042, it'll be like, here's the 98th version of Destro.
Yeah. I mean, we're already close to that number with Darth Vader. So, right. There will be 100th Darth Vader soon, probably before 2025 at this rate.
He'll be spray painted gold and cost $100.
Yeah.
And, I'm not even opposed to, like, as technology progresses, having an updated thing that's more representative of what you want. Because if you look at the original Darth Vader toy, like, he's something that would get lost in the vacuum.
Right.
Look at, like, the Figuarts Darth Vaders. Like, those are so obsessively screen accurate. I can understand why somebody would want that for display. That's not just a toy. That's a collector's item. Awesome. Cool. But you have people that will collect without letting go. Constantly. And then they wind up with a bunch of plastic around them, and they don't know what they're doing with their lives. So somebody else, I can't remember who it is in here. Sooner or later, we're all going to wind up in homes or in the ground. What's Mattel and Hasbro going to do then? Because that type of stuff is going to essentially die with us. Why? No new fiction's coming out of any actual worth. And 2, that's something that you're generationally going to grow up with. Generationally. Yeah. And we can sit here and we can make fun of the Zoomers and the kids all we want about their fancy new television shows and their TikToks and all that. But they're not as interested in this stuff because what they're consuming right now is not the same stuff we did, and is not sold to them in the same way, and does not have the same thing to go along with it. That's why you're not going to see action figures of Steven Universe or Owl House. Steven Universe primarily because they couldn't decide what toy aisle they'd put it on, boys or girls. Because, again, corporations are dumb.
Right.
So it's going to die with us. And the truth of the matter is a lot of people collect this stuff because they are terrified of the specter of death and they do not want to have it in their mind. You've got to come to grips with it. And you have to do what you need to make sure the people after you are taken care of. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. And when it comes to this type of stuff, guys, it's okay to be a fan of something. It's okay to collect things. It's okay to enjoy things. But it has to be with rationale and with moderation. If you buy everything around you, if you become obsessive, you will lose yourself, and the years are going to go by. You're not going to know who you are.
Yeah, there was the guy, I think you saw it, Lio, on Twitter the other day, where he was saying that he absolutely hated and was disappointed with this new Black Series Star Wars figure that was coming out from Book of Boba Fett. And he's like, yeah, but I'm going to buy it anyway. Probably buy 2 of them. And then I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And then like a day later, the guy comes back and he's like, this has been my life on Twitter the last few days, where people who don't like something are not liking the fact that I'm buying it. And I was like, no. You said you didn't like it. And now you're literally convincing yourself that it was other people, even though it's in print on the record. And there were a lot of people that jumped on the guy going, why are you buying something you don't even like? And when I told him that, his immediate response was no. Because I told him, I was like, you could save your dignity. You don't have to buy it. You can just kind of walk away from that one character since it's so disappointing. His immediate response, no. I mean, it's programming, man. It is.
Like,
I have. Yeah. Sorry, Sal. Go ahead.
Like when we were discussing that, I sent you it was either the photo or the GIF of Bob from Bob's Burgers. He's like, fine, but I'm going to complain the whole time. I was like, this is every modern collector getting dressed in the morning.
Yes. Yes.
Well, part of that is due to a misconception that a lot of people have about the industry as a whole. And that misconception is, well, if I don't buy this thing, they're not going to think that anybody wants it, and they're not going to make new ones. Guys, these corporations aren't short on money. Here's what, if you don't buy the thing that they put out there, yeah, they very well might say nobody's interested. But they might also, because they do have people watching social media, do not believe for a second they don't. They are too obsessive to do that, to ignore social media. But if they see the response is negative, and I mean truly like critically negative, proper criticism, calling the toy woke SJW cuck soy boy stuff is not proper criticism. If you point out it is flawed here, it is flawed here, it is not worth money X or Y, it is behind the market on XYZ type of articulation, here's a company that does better, that's what they'll pay attention to. And then, if they're savvy, they'll make a new one. Right. And if they're not savvy and they don't make a new one, you're out nothing. You are out literally nothing. What is the point of buying a bunch of stuff you don't like and don't want when you don't like it and don't want it?
Yeah. Yeah. Michael Hinkson, thank you for the super chat. He says, what toy companies need to do is to stop having multiple lines for a single property. Instead, give a quality product and an actual bang for your buck. Totally agree with that. Jeff McElwee, thank you for the super chat. He says, the Triforce of toys, knowledge, power, and wisdom. Glad to see you guys doing your thing. Glad to see you here, sir. Thank you for being here. Wes Walker says, Lio Convoy for president. Thank you for the kind super chat, sir. And let's see. I think we're caught up on super chats. We are. So
I don't think they want me as president. It would be a lot rougher than they think it would be. Here, let's see if I can pick up a true fan in the comments here. How do I put this? I'm using war as a business to end war as a business.
Well, gentlemen, we are at the 90-minute mark, and we've been through both articles. Any parting thoughts? I know, Lio, you kind of had a nice analysis there, but do either of you have any parting thoughts on Hasbro and Mattel right now and the future of their businesses? I personally feel, and it's a very short statement, I personally feel like they're not really taking different roads. They're trying to couch themselves as, for some reason, taking different paths, but I don't see either of them doing much different aside from Hasbro being more acute in the price gouging. And maybe Mattel's stuff is slightly easier to find on the random visit to a retail store. But other than that, I feel like they're doing the exact same thing. They're playing from the exact same book. I don't see two different paths here.
Yeah, it's just don't go chasing waterfalls. Stick to stick to the rivers and creeks that you know.
You do have somebody.
No, it's like I guess like they're fighting a war on two fronts. I guess like they're sticking to the IPs that they know people are going to buy because they have all these suckers on lines, like just a direct IV, as you say, into their bank account. But they're doing weird stuff with it. Much like who it was it? It wasn't Jeff McElwee. It was the one before that. Said that they're doing too many lines. Like they just focus on one thing and make that one thing good. To quote wise man Ron Swanson, don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. So, if you want to have 8 different G.I. Joe lines, not that they do, but it's like, why don't you focus on one of those and take the manpower and the hours and everything else on those other 7 things and make something new for this current, new generation, so they have something. Like they're too focused on us who are, not long for this world. We've got probably another 30 years left in us in some cases, and it's like, what are you going to do after that? You've made no effort to establish a new fan base.
Right.
So
Exactly.
Real quick, there's somebody in the chat here. I don't know if Michael saw it, so I'll go ahead and say it. His name is Mushroom Hill. He says, "Can you give my boyfriend a shout out for his birthday, Nick Herr?" So go ahead, Michael.
Happy birthday, Nick, and thank you for the kind words on the channel. Very much.
And real quick to another question: all the toy companies of my childhood gone. Tonka, Galoob, LJN. Yeah, they're long gone. Do you want to know why I'm never going to get reissued Thundercat toys like you will like He-Man stuff occasionally, or the new reissue of G.I. Joe stuff? It's because the rights to the toys, that specific toy line, was LJN, and LJN shuttered its doors in the 90s, and all their stuff got bought by Acclaim, which also went under. So I don't know where that is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the molds and the tooling are owned by one company, despite the fact that they depict a property owned by another company. Yep.
Well, again, they never thought. Go ahead.
Didn't Acclaim got bought by Midway, didn't it?
Yep. And again,
and Midway dissolved.
Yeah, and that's assuming they didn't just chuck them.
True.
Glad you found that funny. Okay. Says there's
whatever. Let them have it.
Oh, they're trying to say that.
They're trying to make it. I don't care. We didn't pronounce it well enough to be that, anyways. Whatever.
And also, I just said Nick. So guess what, Mushroom Hill? You're gone from this these streams from here on out. You're gone. I'm not gonna have people jerking me around like that.
I'm just gonna make fun of him. I mean, that's pretty. You could have at least had a Seymour Butts. I mean, at least go classic.
Yeah, but the thing is that anybody who's there to disrupt and do that while saying that it's, say hi to my friend and all this stuff, and then what they're trying to do is get you to say something that will actually get your channel attacked, canceled, or shut down. I ain't playing that shit.
I understand that. I get it, but
do you happen to know that person?
Oh no, I have no clue who this person is.
Yeah.
I know Bushman. Bushman's in the chat. For those of you who are curious, Bushman is like a beast. That dude has remastered the entire Exodus VHS movie edition, like HD upscaled that thing like crazy, and he's 3D printed foot tall Thundercat toys with the light up feature.
Yeah,
that dude's insane.
Well, everyone, before we go, Sal, tell everybody where they can find it. First of all, everybody, 2 Cents Toys is where I go to get modern toy reviews. He's the best modern toy reviewer on YouTube, as far as I'm concerned. Sal, tell everybody where they can find you.
You're too kind, sir. I'm Sal. I'm the head idiot in charge of 2 Cents Toys, the owner proprietor, and suffering under crippling debt. But no, I run 2 Cents Toys. I review modern toys and spend money on stupid shit so you don't have to. If you are in the store and you're looking at a toy and you don't know if you want it or not, look at my channel. If I've reviewed it, you'll know whether you want it under 5 minutes, generally speaking. I keep them very short to the point. I tell you the important stuff, and without all the flair, I get nothing for free, pretty much. So it's honesty and integrity above board. But yeah, that's you can find me at 2 Cents Toys on YouTube, Instagram, all the usual places. Same name across all boards.
Nice. And Lio, where can we find you, sir?
You can't find me. I don't actually exist. I'm everybody's like disappointed dad in their head, and I'm your imaginary friend that tells you to get a job and get out of bed. You can't. No, seriously, you can find me on like Lio Convoy's reviews. I'm thinking about shortening it to just Lio Convoy to further dick with people who look up the toy. But I'm currently doing a weekly rundown of every single episode of Thundercats, giving writer commentary notes on it and my own personal thoughts on the episode. So if you're big on that, or you're big in animation in general, head there. And this weekend, I'm hoping to put out finally the Wave 3 review for the Thundercats Ultimates, and probably gonna piss off a lot of people.
Good deal. Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here tonight. Yeah, Ra, don't worry about it. There was just some minor drama at the end with a moron, but thankfully he didn't completely succeed in his goal. So, and we'll see you all with videos coming soon from all 3 channels right here. I'm working on a big thought piece. Thomas is always working on something and has a stream in the works. And I know that Sal has another figure review coming up probably real soon. or a demo for customizing and dioramaing. If that's right?
Correct. I have like 5 I have to film tonight, so
Nice. Well, everyone, we will see you guys later. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.
Bye, everyone.